Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're investigating a wildly surprising connection between hands-on crafting and academic success. Now, you might think of arts and crafts as just, a fun, leisurely way for kids to pass the time. Maybe a little break from the real learning, right? But the research and data we're unpacking today tells a completely different and, frankly, amazing story about what's actually happening in the brain when we build things with our own hands.
We're starting with a fascinating mystery here. How could something as simple as folding paper or building with wooden blocks actually lead to better grades in the classroom? It seems completely counterintuitive at first glance. Like, what does crafting a paper crane or a clay pot have to do with math scores, reading comprehension, or managing some complex science project? Well, to figure this out, we have to look under the hood at the underlying cognitive machinery that drives literally all of our learning.
The answer lies in this hidden engine of the brain known as executive functioning, or EF. This acts as the mental control center for things like adaptable thinking, working memory, and self-control. Basically, these are the higher-order cognitive skills you absolutely need for any purposeful, goal-directed thought and behavior. If your brain is a giant orchestra, executive functioning is the conductor. It ensures all the different sections are playing together harmoniously so you can problem solve, regulate your emotions, and actually track your progress toward a goal.
So moving on to section 1, the power of paper, origami versus vocabulary.
Let's look at some hard data involving a highly relatable craft. Researchers set up this absolutely brilliant experiment. They pitted a 12-week origami training program against standard vocabulary lessons for primary school students, just to see which one had a greater cognitive impact. So you've got one group doing traditional academic work, memorizing vocabulary flashcards, and another group engaged in the structural, step-by-step folding of paper for a full 12 weeks. Which group do you think developed better cognitive flexibility? The ones drilling words, or the ones trying really hard not to crumple their paper cranes in frustration? Get this. The result was striking. The origami group showed significant gains over the vocabulary group in core executive functions. We're talking major improvements in task switching, enhanced inhibition control, and better working memory. They didn't just get better at folding paper, they literally greased the gears of the cognitive foundations required to shift their attention fluidly between different rules and tasks.
So why exactly does this happen? Well, tangible manipulation of paper actually provides a physical representation of abstract planning. Think about it. Holding these complex folding sequences in your mind, which relies heavily on your working memory, while simultaneously suppressing the impulse to make an incorrect premature fold, which uses inhibition control, forces the brain into a massive workout. It builds what researchers call behavioral automaticity in a highly tactile environment, making it so much easier for kids to monitor their own progress.
Section 2, Building Brains with Handicraft, the Developmental Scaffold. Now, it's not just origami. Researchers have extensively studied what's known as Finnish formative handicraft, which uses natural and industrial materials like wood, clay, and fibers, to map out exactly how physical creation scales up with age. We can actually track this cognitive progression like we're building a mental workbench over time. It starts with toddlers doing simple beading or lacing with large pieces to build foundational sustained attention. Then, moving up to preschoolers, activities like finger knitting scaffold the practice of newly maturing control. By elementary school, tackling woodworking requires monitoring aesthetic mistakes and closely copying an instructor's templates. And it goes all the way up to middle schoolers doing complex metalsmithing or wood lathe projects, which demands really strict accuracy standards to master strategic organization and time management. And this brilliantly illustrates why builders play with blocks, or Legos, has been proven to train core executive functions way more effectively than screen time or unstructured free play. When a child is physically manipulating tangible materials to construct something and, inevitably leaving them all over the floor for you to step on in the dark, they are actively training that mental control center. Research actually shows that 3 months of builder's play leads to much greater gains in goal-directed persistence and executive regulation than digital games. Digital games just don't offer that same cognitive resistance or tactile feedback. Section 3, the power of collaborative crafting, social scaffolding. Okay, so what happens when we take these solo crafts and turn them into a team effort? Transitioning from individual work to collaborative projects, like building a massive group quilt or co-constructing furniture, adds an intense new layer of social and cognitive complexity. Because now you're no longer just managing your own materials and your own little mistakes, you're suddenly having to manage peer expectations, group deadlines, and some pretty complex social dynamics. Working together throws in a whole new set of challenges. It requires children to negotiate peer demands, which forces them to adapt their pace, a really crucial skill known as behavior shifting. They also have to engage in working memory updating, meaning they have to actively remember what their peers have already done just to figure out their own next move. And honestly, perhaps most crucially, it requires immense impulse control to resist the urge to rush ahead or just ignore the group's instructions. They have to prioritize the collective outcome over what they individually want to do right then and there. Which brings us to section 4, from workbench to school desk, the classroom payoff. So how does all this time spent at the workbench actually translate to success when you're sitting at a school desk? Well, as the research clearly highlights, handicraft trains generalized executive functioning competencies that are strictly necessary for fluid and adaptive goal pursuit in real-world elementary and secondary school contexts. In plain English, the exact skills being built in the workshop are the exact skills required for academic achievement in the classroom.
Let's break down what this actually looks like in practice. The discipline of preparing your tools and following logical, sequenced steps in a craft directly mirrors the self-organization and time management you need to tackle a massive, complex academic assignment. When a student learns how to track their progress while, say, building a wooden box, they're internalizing highly specific self-organization strategies. Plus, seeing that incremental physical progress builds real intrinsic motivation. It gives them the behavioral automaticity to override off-task impulses, like wanting to check their phone, in favor of just getting their schoolwork done. So, knowing that physical creation practically builds the mental engine required for classroom success, it leaves us with a pretty compelling final thought. Before we pile on more and more homework in an effort to improve school performance, should we actually be handing out more tools? It's a fascinating paradigm shift in how we view learning, and for sure, something to think about the next time you see someone whittling wood, folding paper, or building a giant tower out of blocks.